You know, ये तो सही लड़की नहीं है. He asking me questions. That means ये तो बहुत outward है, you know. As immodest, you know. You have full right. The girl has full right to ask the question to the boy has full, but natural within the purview of the Islamic Sharia. But natural, but you can always, to see that you don't offend, let the boy ask the question first. So you can ask the boy, okay, what would you like to ask from me? So that it goes off, you know, smoothly, not that he feels that you're extra modern. So to be modern is good, mashallah. Islam is a modern religion. But these are the concepts that we have in our society and our culture. So it's preferable that you give the first chance to the boy to ask. And if the boy is comfortable, the boy can say, you can always say, let the girl ask first, no problem. But if a girl is there, they always give a chance. It's preferable. Preferable. So that everything goes smoothly. And most of the questions, most of them, not all, can be the same. For example, the girl can ask the boy after the boy finishes, since it's a girl who asked the question, that what kind of a girl would you like to marry? Indirectly, you are trying to find out that the answer he gives, now you'll have to judge that what type of person is he. You may say, oh, you know, I want a very beautiful wife. Fine. Not too much positive, not too much negative also, but, you know, I want a wife who's very educated. Fine. No problem. But does he put the criteria that I want a virtuous wife? If he doesn't put that criteria, he himself may not be that virtuous. One is asking a leading question, one is asking an indirect question to get the reply. And the list of questions can go to thousands. I don't want to end the show only giving the list of questions. But then you can ask the leading question that, would you mind marrying a girl who does not do hijab? Yes, I don't mind as long as she's beautiful. So come to know, okay, fine, this person is not virtuous. So now you're indirectly trying to judge the level of virtue of the would-be husband by asking indirect questions. This is one way. And you can carry on like, would you like to marry a girl who does not offer salah? Or later on you can ask direct questions also. So in this way, first to try and find out how virtuous is the would-be boy you want to marry or would-be girl that you want to marry. Similarly, if a boy has to ask a question to a girl, if he's starting, or the girl, her chance comes to ask a question, you can ask leading questions that, you know, to find out how much he practices. Don't take it for granted. Same question can be asked, that what type of a spouse would you want? That's a very good question. It's a very easy way to come to know what is the view of the opposite person. If that girl is virtuous, she will give answers based on Quran and Sunnah. Then you can ask the question, how many times a day do you offer salah? Some will feel offended. Oh, asking on salah. Or you can say that, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you a leading question, but because I want a virtuous husband, I would like to be sure. And you can ask the question. He may say 5 times, he may say no, 4 times is regular and 1 time, you know, sometimes I miss the Fajr Salah, whatever it is. Now while you're asking question, you should come to know that the person who's giving the answer, is he just answering for the sake of answering, or are the answers a fact? Because if that person realizes that the opposite person, you know, she's a beautiful girl, but she wants a virtuous husband, so he'll try to behave like being virtuous. No, मैं तो 5 time पढ़ता हूँ, छोड़ता ही नहीं. So you ask a simple question, that what time is the time for Fajr Salah? Don't ask Zohar Salah, because Zohar Salah is the same throughout the year. Zohar Salah, when the sun is at the topmost part, of the same. So ask, what is the time for Fajr Salah? Fajr Salah, Fajr Salah. Fine, the person may take a little time because, you know, but if he pulls the fast one, what time is the time for Maghrib? And when you ask, don't ask with too much of ego, ask with humility. I'm sorry, you know, depending upon the nature of the person you're talking to, your question framing will change. Some people are very sensitive. What do you mean? You're asking me how many times I pray? This cannot be the first question. It can be in between, you know, after you ask the other thing. So, you may ask simple, what is education? But these questions people don't mind. It's a general question. So first question, if you ask what is Salah, there may be a problem if the person is not very virtuous. Or he may be virtuous, but he may think that you doubt his taqwa. He may not be broad-minded. So normally you can ask, you know, where have you got education from? Fine. There may be criteria that you may want to know how good his English is, how good the Urdu is. And these are criteria which may not come in virtue, but comes in compatibility. It is very important that you have a compatible spouse. So if you have option a person who's virtuous and doesn't know English, and a person who's virtuous and knows English, in which language you're comfortable and you want to involve, so but natural, then you can judge that. So these, when you're asking general questions, what is education? And education is also important. What is education? Where have you passed from? Which college you went to? You know, which subjects you took. So here when you're asking these, you are making him comfortable initially. Now while you make him comfortable, you are trying to find out the answers that he's giving, you are trying to judge how good the English is, you are trying to judge his level of education, which is also important. The education is not there in the 4 criteria mentioned by the Prophet, that you want to get compatible, because not that an uneducated person can't get married, but if you are educated and you want someone of the similar level, it's permissible. So after you do the other checking of the education level, of the language, of the culture, which is important, but the main is virtue. So you can ask leading questions after knowing about Salah. Then, do you fast in the month of Ramadan? It's a leading question. Do you fast the complete month of Ramadan, or do you fast even the accessories, additional fast? Now if you ask, do you fast Ramadan, what do you mean? How fast? So do you only fast the full Ramadan, or do you keep the additional fast, or so that he doesn't feel offended? Based on the answer, even if he says he only fasts in the month of Ramadan, sufficient, not that he has to keep the fast of Shawwal. If he keeps, alhamdulillah. In this way, you try and find out the pillars of Islam. Salah is there. Then Som is there. Zakat if required, you can ask. Have you performed Hajj? This question, no one will feel offended, but they can come to know. And very important is the Aqidah, the Tawheed part of it. Asking that, which school of thought you belong to? What do you think is the most important book in Islam? Trying to find out that the person going to marry, how much knowledge does he have about Islam? It's Quran and Sunnah. And then you can ask leading questions to find out that is he involved in any innovation? He may be fasting, he may be praying, he may have gone for Hajj, he may be giving a zakat. But ask leading question to know whether is he involved in certain innovations. Because if he is involved in innovation, the first pillar, that's Tawheed, is very important. The person should not be involved in any form of shirk. Because shirk is the biggest sin in Islam. Allah says in Surah Nisa chapter 4, verse number 48, and in Surah Nisa chapter 4, 116, that if Allah pleases, He may forgive any sin. But the sin of shirk, He will not forgive. For anyone who does shirk, he stayed far away. Fine, no Muslim will ever do open shirk, but there may be other hidden shirk or lesser level. So in this way we can ask leading questions about Aqidah, about the school of thought, and does it match with your view, or does it match with Quran and Sahih Hadith? So main leading question should be on virtue, and the answers should be based on whether Islam that they follow, is it on ritualism, on culture, or based on Quran and Sahih Hadith. Most of the answers that the would-be husband or wife, a girl or boy, or marry, the answer should be based on Quran and Sahih Hadith. You should also try to find out that is the person involved in any major sins or not. At least try and find out, if not all, the common major sins that are there. When you ask about Salah, Zakat, the first few are there. Don't ask me, have you committed murder or not? That is the second sin. Oh, ذاكر Bhai said, so I have a list of questions. First is shirk, second is murder. Have you murdered anyone? So but natural, which is, you assume that he has not done. But then the other one you can ask that, hope you don't have any vices. You know, I'm sorry, don't feel offended, but I would normally like to have a virtuous husband, so I want to be sure that the life partner I'm going to be with, you know, does he have any vices like having alcohol, involved in drugs, does he smoke? And sometimes it's okay, you know, I don't have vices except for smoking. Not a factor, but certain things can be, if the other factors are good. That doesn't mean any of the answer is no, that means finish. Person may say, I offer 4 times Salah. The morning Fajr sometimes I miss. That doesn't mean that he is completely disregarded. The person says, I only offer Jummah to Jummah. Then there's a big query. Should you go ahead or not? So based on the replies, then you can keep on asking further. And depending on it, that ask other questions, that how much do you think is important to convey the message of Islam, to find out is he proud to be a Muslim. And then on appearance you can come to know that is the person keeping a beard or not. If the girl is looking for a would-be husband, and if the boy is looking for a would-be wife, he would observe whether hijab or not. But sometimes you have to be careful. Sometimes the girls, they may be doing strict hijab, but when you go to look at her, she may not do complete hijab thinking, that she wants to impress you. So she may come in front of you not doing the hijab which she normally does. She may wear maybe a dupatta, but the hair may be thin, and you may assume. So is this the normal way you dress when you go out? You can ask a leading question. Because the hijab can be relaxed, so she may do that. So you have to be careful when a boy is going to look at the girl. But the girl, when you look at a boy, you can see whether he has a beard or not. It may not be the most important, but it is important whether the person is covering his head or not. Covering that is sunnah. Not that you reject a person because he doesn't cover the head. But if he covers, oh fine. But again, covering doesn't mean he's Islamic. You may get that half out of 100 on Islam, but that doesn't mean the other criteria, everything is there. There are many people who cover that, but they're far away from following the Sunnah and Hadith. So these days, sisters, the questions you can ask many questions. You can ask questions about the future. The girl, what she wants to do. Maybe if she wants to do dawah. So if your wife, don't say I, because you're just interviewing. If the girl you marry, if she wants to do dawah or go to an Islamic organization, at least 2 hours every day, would you allow? Don't say, if I want to go, would you allow me? Because yet it hasn't taken place. So the girl that you marry, if she says that she wants to go 2 hours every day, would you allow her? Now when the stages are on the higher stage, everything is done and engagement, and then you can say that if after marriage, if I want to go, will you allow? No, that's fine, because they're on a higher stage. So it depends whether it's the first meeting, second meeting or third meeting. And the questions can keep on. And you can ask other questions which you feel, what you want to do. Certain things you realize that what are faraiz, you have to ask upfront. That would you like your wife doing hijab? He said, I wouldn't mind. Suppose the wife says she will not do hijab, will you agree? He says, I wouldn't mind. Then you know that what type of Islam that he believes in. So these leading questions should be asked, and the list can, we can go on and on and on. But you should always know that what is your priority in life, that if you know that you're a da'i and you want a da'i, then you have to ask him questions. That what's your profession? How much time do you spend in conveying the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or is he just a so-called average Muslim who prays 5 times a day, fasts in the month of Ramadan, maybe he's gone for Hajj, doesn't smoke, doesn't have alcohol? Fine. But is there anything else? Is he involved in dawah? Is he involved in conveying the message? Is he proud to be a Muslim? Or is the person apologetic? Is he shy? What are his types of friends? So the questions, sister, the list can never end. We can keep on asking and trying to find out. Therefore the TV can go on for a couple of hours. Maybe one session, can be a couple of sessions. There is no rule that you should have one meeting or what is the duration of that meeting. But natural as much as you can. But go prepared. Make a list of questions. You may forget, you may not have that memory. So note it down, make a list, then you can ask. Want to know his vices? Important. What you want to do? And would you like your wife to earn a living? To know what is his view? These questions. But natural, when you ask a question, see to it that you behave like a virtuous girl. And so after I do the important duties of house, not that fine, I want to go for dawah, means full day, 10 hours I'm doing dawah and I come home and relax, fine. You have to look after your home affairs also, that's important. So this was just in brief, sister, and the list can keep on continuing for endlessly. Yes, you're most welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I wanted to know why is polygamy allowed in Islam?
Sister has a question that why is polygamy allowed in Islam? Polygamy normally is of 2 types. A person having more than one spouse. So if a man has more than one spouse, it's called as polygyny. And if a woman has more than one spouse, one husband, it is called as polyandry. So Islam allows polygyny, limited polygyny, a man to have more than one wife as compared polyandry is prohibited. But before I give the answer, I will tell you that Quran is the only religious scripture on the face of the earth. We say marry only one. If you analyze the other religions, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, you can marry as many as you wish. If you read the Ramayana, the father of Sri Ram, King Dashrath, he had 3 wives. If you read Mahabharata, Sri Krishna, how many wives he had? 4, 10, 100, 1000, 16,108. So if Christian can have 16,108 wives, so why can't the Muslims have up to 4? Furthermore, if you read the Bible, if you read the Old Testament, Abraham, according to the Bible, had 3 wives. Solomon had 700 wives. So according to the Bible and according to Judaism and Christianity, man can have as many wives as he pleases. It is later on, the Jewish rabbi, mentioning in Yehuda, he passed a synod in 690 C to 1060 C, that a Jewish man should marry only one. And this practice of Jewish men marrying more than one wife continued even in Sephardic communities, that is the Jewish community living in Muslim society, till as late as 1950, until the chief rabbi of Israel, he passed a synod and said that a Jew is only allowed to marry only one woman. Similarly, if you read the Bible, a Christian can marry as many women as he wishes. It is the church which has put a ban that the Christian should marry only one. Similarly, according to Hindu scripture, the Hindu can marry as many women as he wishes. It is the Indian Penal Code, the Indian government, under the Hindu Special Marriage Act in 1954, where it put a limitation that Hindu man can only marry one woman. Otherwise, according to scriptures, you can marry as many as you wish. And if you read the statistics of the government of India, the status of women in India, on page number 66, it says, it gives the percentage of polygamous marriages done in a span of 10 years, from 1951 to 1961, and Muslims, they were involved in 4.31% polygamous marriages. And the Hindus, 5.04%. That means 0.75% of the Hindus, they do more polygamous marriages as compared to the Muslims. Now let us analyze what does the Quran say. Quran says in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 3. Marry women of your choice in 2s, 3s or 4s, but if you can't do justice, marry only one. So this statement, marry only one, is only given in the Quran and no other religious scripture. Let me tell you that polygyny, a man having more than one wife, is not compulsory in Islam. It is mubah, it's optional. Many people have misconception, it is compulsory. It's not compulsory, it is mubah, it's optional. But if you marry more than one wife, the Quran says you should be just between them. If you cannot do justice, then you should not marry. So one of the criteria for a man to have more than one wife is you should do justice between your wives. Let us analyze what are the logical reasons that Islam has permitted a man in Islam to have more than one wife. Science today tells us that by nature, male and female children are born in equal proportion. But a child's doctor, he will tell you that the female child can fight the germs and diseases much better than the male child. The female child has got more immunity. Medically, the female child is stronger than the male child. So in the pediatric age itself, in the young age, there are more male children dying as compared to female children. So in pediatric age itself, there are more females in the world than males. As life goes on, there is death due to cigarette smoking, due to alcoholism, due to accidents, during wars. More males are dying in these conditions as compared to females. So what we realize that today in the world, there are more females as compared to males. Only in third world countries like India, etc., the female population is less than the male population. And one of the reasons is that there is female feticide and infanticide in India. According to a BBC report that came in the program assignment by the title Let Her Die, a British reporter by the name of Emily Beckinan, she gives a survey that every day more than 3,000 fetuses are being aborted after they identified that they're females. If you multiply this figure by 365, the number of days, you get a total of more than 1 million fetuses are being aborted every year in India after they identified that they're females. And if you stop this evil practice, inshallah, even in India, the female population will become more than the male population. So if you analyze today in the world, besides third world countries, there is more females as compared to males. In New York alone, there are 1 million females more than males. In USA alone, there are 7.8 million females more than males. In Germany alone, there are 5 million females more than males. In UK alone, there are 4 million females more than males. In Russia alone, there are 9 million females more than males. And God alone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone knows how many millions of females are more than the males throughout the world. If I agree with a non-Muslim that every man should have only one wife, and if the market is saturated, every man has found a wife for himself, and suppose your sister, or suppose my sister happens to live in America, and if the market is saturated, all the men have found a life partner for themselves. So yet there will be 7.8 million females in USA who will not find husbands. Now the only option remaining for these 7.8 million females who have not found husband, life partner for themselves, is that they either marry a man who's already married, or they become public property. Public property, such a harsh word. You know, it is the most sophisticated word I can use. There's no better word I can use. Therefore I call it that. Either have the choice of marrying a man who already has a wife, or becoming public property. If you analyze in the Western world, especially in America, on average, a person, before he settles down with a life partner for good, he has on average 8 sexual different life partners before he settles down with one. That's what the survey says. And after marriage, how many has is not mentioned in the survey? On average 8. Imagine. And there in America, having mistresses common, 2, 4, 10, 20,000, no problem. But having more than one wife, legally it doesn't go down their throat. And I do agree that no woman, no girl would under normal circumstances like to share the husband. That is without doubt. The Islamic Sharia says that let a small loss take place to prevent a big loss. That means if it is a good Muslim woman who knows the situation of the world, she would not mind sharing the husband for the benefit of the other Muslim sister. So these are the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, has permitted some men to have more than one wife and up to 4 wives. Hope that answers the question. Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Actually, this is just related to the same question. Alhamdulillah, it was a very good answer. And you are known for supporting men marrying more than one wife in the media as well. So many people, they're asking that why does Dr. ذاكر Naik not have more than one wife?
Your question that I am there supporting men marrying more than one wife is wrong. I am supporting by giving permission. The question is that why don't I marry more than one wife? MashaAllah, I have a life partner, and one only, MashaAllah, I'm happy with her. I don't require to have another one. But having more than one wife is permissible. Therefore, I said it is not compulsory, it is mubah. So there are many mubah things I don't do. Like being an engineer is mubah, I'm not an engineer. Fine? So there are many mubah things which I don't do. So I consider marrying more than one wife is mubah. And if someone does, if the need requires, he should do. So that is the reason mashallah, I'm happy with my wife. And not that if you're sad with the wife, then only marry a second wife. So to do justice with one wife, I'm finding it difficult. To do justice with two wives is more difficult. Because the fields that I'm involved in, etc. So marrying more than one wife is a mubah. It's optional. I don't encourage people to marry more than one wife. I say that there is a permissibility in Islam for certain men to have more than one wife. Why? Because by statistics, as I mentioned, there are more women than men in the world, but the percentage for every 1,000 men, there are 1,005 women. That means the percentage is half. That means in every 200 men, there is one woman more. That means if 200 marriages take place, out of that, one man should have more than one wife. That is true. If everyone starts having more than one, even 10%, there will be a shortage of women. Not be possible. So it is, on an average, if you go by statistics wise, that doesn't mean Islam says that only 0.5% should have it. I'm not saying that. In some country it may be 5-10%, some country may be more, some country may be 0. But if you look at the scenario and the logical situation, and there are various needs where a second marriage may be required. One may be fine. Maybe the husband is hypersexual and may not be satisfied with one wife. One of the reasons. One reason can be maybe they have no children. So instead of giving divorce to the first wife and marrying a new wife. Keep the first wife. She's a good wife. Give her all the rights and marry a second wife. There can be other also issues. So one of the major reasons is about maybe hypersexuality. Second reason can be they want children. Or third reason can be if he requires that I want to have maybe more children, so that I can do whatever way. So there are various other reasons, but there's no reason that there is a fard. Though there are some people who say it is mustahab. It's encouraged. I feel that it is mubah. Hope that answers the question. Yes, sister, most welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brother, I want to know what are the different types of divorces in Islam.
Selection is there, marriage is there, and divorce has come. We haven't discussed about how the things are, immediate divorce. As far as divorce is concerned, broadly you can categorize the divorces into five types. One is with the mutual consent of both husband and wife. The second is unilaterally with the will of the husband. The third is that if it is mentioned in the nikah, in the marital contract, that even the wife can give divorce, then she too can give unilateral divorce. That is called as talaq-e-tawfid or isma. But it should be mentioned in the nikah. The fourth is that if it's not mentioned in the nikah, and if the wife wants to part away from the husband, it may be a personal reason, it may be valid reason, it may be invalid reason. It may be just because she does not like him. She can request the husband to give khula to her. Request him to divorce her. It's called as khula. And the last is the fifth type. That if the husband doesn't agree to give khula, and if the husband ill-treats her or does not give her her rights, she has a right to go to the qazi and do nikah-e-fasq. Nikah-e-fasq means nullification of the marriage. So these are broadly the five types of divorces that are there, and some people club two types and make it into four types, etc. But broadly these are the types of divorces that can take place in Islam. Hope that answers the question, sister. Yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My question is how to conduct a relation after the engagement for a boy and a girl.
Sorry, how to conduct a?
Relationship between that two person who is engaged, boy and a girl. After engagement, how to conduct that relationship.
How should they behave is the right word.
Exactly.
Relationship. Someone is after engagement, that is after nikah.
Yes.
Sister asked the question that once, I understood the question, that how should a girl and boy behave after the engagement has taken place and the nikah hasn't taken place. A relationship normally has many meanings. So how should she behave? What is the level of modesty, etc. See, in Islam, there is nothing like engagement. I am going to be engaged tomorrow. I'm going to be engaged? That means engaged to be engaged. Once you have an interview, husband, wife, and the parents or whatever, whoever the elders agree, so finish. That's the engagement. That's already done. Okay, now we'll have the engagement, after 1 week. So it's not the engagement, it is engaged to be engaged. These are all the other cultures that are there. So once you decide that you're going to get married, it is finished, already engaged. So the right thing is that once you decide you're going to marry, fine, you can decide the date after few weeks, after few months, or whatever, it is no problem. But to say that, okay, we will have the engagement, and then maybe you change the ring, or do something, or do haldi and do mehendi or whatever it is, all these are cultures. But there's no problem following any culture as long as it doesn't go against the Islamic Sharia. If it's not against Quran Hadith, I'm not telling keeping engagement is haram. I'm not saying that. So if it's part of the culture, there's no Quranic verse saying that don't keep engagement, no Hadith saying don't keep engagement. So you can keep engagement, but it is not part of the Sunnah, it's mubah. You want to do mehendi, you want to do haldi, no problem. But see to it doesn't go into extravagance, it doesn't break any of the rules of the Sharia. Now coming to a basic question, that after the girl is engaged, after they decided to get married, maybe after a few months, how should she behave with each other? Your behavior with the would-be husband or would-be wife is not the same as husband and wife. Please note that. That is the Western culture. Once you are engaged means no problem. You can do everything. Even before engagement you can do everything, after engagement everything, and after marriage also everything. So that is Western culture. So here it is that your hijab should be maintained. As far as the part of the Quranic verse that lower your gaze, when you're looking at a woman, Surah Nur chapter 24 verse 30 as I mentioned, and Surah Nur chapter 24 verse number 31, telling the men